Hello, everybody. Welcome in. Good morning, Jim. Hello, Didi and Chad, Carolina Grove. Good morning and happy Saturday, my friends. So, we're going to wait because we got 4 more minutes. Let's see everybody else who comes in. Good to have you guys. Always good to have you guys. Good Saturday. Sometimes I feel like I get up too early. Uh, should be a good live today, everybody. Should be a good live. Let's see here. I'm going to look for a couple things real quick. All right. God dang it. All right. So we got that one. All right, all right. Welcome in, Cheryl. Good morning, Didi and Chad and friends. Granny Jackal, good morning. Kelly's in the house. Good to have you, Kelly. Good morning. I'll give it a couple more minutes and then we'll go ahead and start. Hope you guys are having a good Saturday morning. Tell you what, sometimes I feel like I just don't get enough sleep. You know what I mean? And yet I know I have to get up early. I don't know. Crazy. I know we got a lot of rain coming in Ohio, that's for sure. Got a lot of rain coming in Ohio. I wonder if YouTube sent the notes. The notes sent the. I wonder if YouTube sent out the messages to everybody. Did you guys get a confirmation that we're going live? Christine is in the house. Good to have you, Christine. Welcome in. We're going to start here in 2 more minutes. We're going to start at 9:05 just to give anybody else time to get here. They're probably recuperating from their maybe. Well, I know April's traveling back today, so she'll probably be in and out on her phone. Oleg, welcome in, Oleg. Good to have you. And being it's a Saturday, see, today is what? The first day of fall? August 1st? Yeah. Wow. Time just flies. August, September, October. 2 more months we'll be headed to Tucson. See what's going on over there. All right. So all right. So let me look through here real quick. All right. So we're going to go ahead and let's go ahead and get started. And when individuals come in, we'll go ahead and fill them in on what's going on. Basically, I wanted to go back. I wanted to really start with the first 2 weeks of the case because usually kidnapping for ransom or kidnapping in general usually resolves itself, not always, but for the most part within that first week to 2 weeks. After that, man, your chances or your numbers just drop drastically if a deal is not made by that time. And what I'm talking about is like when somebody gets kidnapped for ransom, it usually goes pretty quick because the people want their money. They're willing to give up the person they got. They don't want to hurt that person because they know they're going to have to provide a lot of information like proof of life and etc. So they want to make the transaction as fast as possible. Now, usually they will leave a note once they take that person to the family, and they will stress, do not go ahead and get the police involved. That will happen quite a bit. However, this has been anything but ordinary or anything but scripted as far as doing things that are normally done the way they usually are done. And everybody knows that you got to show a proof of life. Everybody knows that. Then the question becomes, well, was it a kidnap and ransom? Was it um, for a better lack of words, was it all about unaliving her to make it look like a kidnapping for ransom? That's a possibility. And the more that crosses my mind, the more I think I'm still with the fact that it was a kidnapping for ransom. However, the only odd anomaly that I see is that I don't think she was ever going to be released back to the family. Because I don't think that was ultimately the goal. I think they needed to capitalize on money to pay off whoever was involved in this whole ordeal. Otherwise, they would talk. So I do believe that that's exactly what we're looking at, possibly a kidnapping for ransom to pay everybody who was involved in this. And then that's just to boot, but the reality could have been that they wanted to unalive her for personal gain. And that's what we're going to talk about, how and who could have been motivated to do just that. We're going to look at information that we had gathered already in these first 6 months. 6 months have gone by. Now, I think that this thing has to be solved. It doesn't have to be, but for the sake of the police department, it has to be solved, because if not, there's going to be a lot of these happening, because they know there's a blueprint how they can be effective. That's why I say that for. That's why these cases like this really, they take legs on its own, man. They have to literally throw everything they have at it. That's why you want FBI involved. That's why you want all these different search groups like Cajun Navy and EquiSearch and etc. You want them to come in and help you, because the fact is you don't have the resources like the FBI. You don't have the manpower, because you still got to take care of your community, your town, your, in this case, the sheriff's department, your county. So it's a really strain. And this is why usually people in leadership will go ahead and contact the FBI and say, hey, we could use your help in whatever that is, forensics or logistics or whatever, anything that's not going to tie their people up as well. Plus, usually FBI takes care of the whole cost. This is what they do. So that's what we're really looking at. Hi, Didi, Oleg, AJ. Good morning, everyone. Welcome in, AJ, Oleg, Hart. Yes, AJ, Oleg. So the idea that we have learned so much, the reason you go back to the beginning is to see if it tried to remember exactly what happened and then apply what we have gathered and see where that pattern takes you, where now that information takes you, because what didn't make sense at the beginning may start to shape out a little bit and make sense now. You understand what I'm saying? So the idea is to go back, start parsing. And I don't mean you have to break everything down to a science. You just go back and look at the steps, and then you look at where you're at now and try to figure out, okay, this is what's going on. This is what probably, we didn't know, and yes, the ransom notes plays a role in it. The calls that were made, or the notes, just everything they did. And I really, truly want to focus on the first 2 weeks. Okay. Because the first 2 weeks is probably the first day when the deputy arrives at the scene is so crucial. It's so important. Hi, Devil Dog and everyone. Good morning, folks. Bruce, welcome in. Bruce Davis, good to have you. Oleg, this never went to plan. Probably not. But we're going to look at what has come out to what we knew from the get-go. You know what I'm saying? And we didn't know much in the get-go. It was only after time we started getting more information. Not like it was a lot of information, but it was information. So let's go to the beginning. I'm going to pull this up here. Okay. I'm going to pull this up here. So let me do this. No message. All right. All right. Now, this is kind of the biggest I can make it, but we'll try to do it. And if I have to, let me see if I can make this a little bigger. There you go. I can't see your guys' comments, just so you know. I cannot see your comments. I don't like not being able to see your guys' comments. So, yeah. Let's just go with, yeah, man, it's so hard to see. And I don't think we can blow it up. Let me see here. Give me a second, everybody. Let me see if I can. All right. All right. Here we go. There we go. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. Didi, open another tab. Yeah, that's what I just did. Thank you. I just split the screens. Awesome. Thank you, Oleg. So at the beginning, January 31st, January 31st, in the evening, Nancy Guthrie arrives at her daughter's and Annie's home through an Uber. That's what has, and when I say what I'm saying, it's just that's what they have said. We can parse it out later as far as we can say, well, she might have not come home. Let's just go with that. I don't want to get too confusing and too wonky here. In the evening of the January 31st, 2026, Nancy Guthrie arrives at her daughter's and Annie's home at 5:32 p.m. for dinner and game night. Now, the apparently Uber driver picked her up at her house, Nancy, and drove her and dropped her off at the front door of Annie and Tommaso's home. That's pretty clean cut and dry. There is some speculation that, because they haven't talked. Now let's know what we know about the Uber driver, just on that piece. So we know the Uber driver. We don't know. There's been a lot of speculation as to, did the Uber driver actually take her? Did they actually go there? Well, they have video, I believe, from the Uber driver because they carry video in their vehicle. That's what they do for car rides and whatnot, now for transportation. Now, they do have that, and it was stated that they got the footage and they did talk to the Uber driver. I don't know what they said because they never really released what they said. But what they did do, being the Pima County Sheriff's Office, is they said they were not a suspect, okay? Did he open the other tab? Okay, all we know is that Uber driver is female and she handed in the video of Nancy in the back. Correct. That's all we know. At the time, we didn't even know that, right? They just said there was an Uber driver, took her there, dropped her off. Well, we know now that they did get the video. It was a female, and she was in the back. Yes, very well said, Kat. Thank you. So that was the evening at the beginning. At 9:48 p.m., her son-in-law, Tommaso Cioni, drops her off at her home in Tucson at the Catalina foothills. 9:48. Now, some have speculated that she never actually made it home. So let's look at what we know now. We know that they used the garage doors opening at 9:48 and then closing at 9:50. The big debate was, Could she really get out of the car, walk to the garage, go into her house all in 2 minutes? You have to remember she was not very mobile. Nancy was not very mobile. I mean, even a 10-minute car ride or whatnot, going from Annie's house to her house, I mean, that's pretty hard on the bones. You know, you still got to get up, you still got to wiggle your way out of the seat, you know, especially when she already has a lot of bad knees. She has a hard time walking, etc. So at 9:48, they told us that Sione drops her off, the son-in-law, at her door. Now, it gets a little muddy there because at the beginning, there's so much misinformation and not clear information. Nanos talks about literally they watched her into her home. Not really sure what the hell watch meant. Did they see her go into her home? Did they watch her as in they took her inside her home and seen her in the home? We don't know any of that. All we know is what he said, and it really didn't make sense. Still really doesn't make sense. AJ, good time to release the video of Nancy in the Uber. Let's see it. Let's see if I can find it. Let's see. No, yeah, this is it. Let's see. All right. Let's see. Okay, so let's see here. Okay. And then we're going to. Okay, I gotta take this one out. I want to. Okay. That's not it. Oh. Sorry, guys. That's what I didn't want to do, but we'll go ahead and do it.
In a single frame, a video, moving images, possibly with audio. It came from inside the Uber she took on the evening of January 31st, hours before she vanished from her home in Tucson, Arizona. The driver recorded it, and after 47 days, he turned it over to federal investigators.
47
Think
days.
about that for a moment. For nearly 7.
So Nanos didn't turn over this video. Literally, Nanos didn't turn over this Uber driver information for 47 days. Think about that for a minute, everybody. 47 days. 47 days they did not turn over the Uber information. What the hell? Like, why did they feel they had to keep that under wraps? Well, you just heard what it said there, okay? Maybe it was 3 weeks. You just heard what it said. You know, I'm just playing what's on there. All right. So the idea that that's literally what they said is just crazy to me. And even they didn't hand it for 3 weeks. That's fine too. That's still too long. 3 weeks is way too long. Way too long.
7 weeks, the public has relied on photographs. A doorbell image here, a strange FBI released photo there, witness descriptions of what Nancy was wearing, how she looked, what she said at dinner. But now there is video, the last confirmed footage of an 84-year-old woman going about her Saturday evening routine, a routine someone had been watching. This is what the Uber footage shows, and this is why it changes the investigation. Here are the confirmed facts. On the evening of January 31st, at approximately 5:32 p.m., Nancy Guthrie requested an Uber from her home in Tucson. The ride took her to her daughter Annie's house for their regular Saturday dinner, a routine Nancy kept faithfully. She arrived. She had dinner with her family. Afterward, her son-in-law Tommaso drove her home. At approximately 9:50 p.m., Tommaso closed Nancy's garage door from the outside, confirmed she was inside, and left. Nobody saw Nancy.
Okay, so the idea that literally they went ahead and literally went ahead and took that long, whether it was 3 weeks or whether it was 47 days or whatever in the heck, the idea it's way too long for them to hold on to that information. Nano still kept it quiet for another 3 weeks. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And then we ask the question, now that we know what we know, why? Why? What? That's not the first red flag, but that definitely is. Well, technically, it was the first red flag because that was at the very beginning. We just didn't know it was a red flag until everything started unfolding. All right. Unbelievable. I just can't believe how literally they would have taken that long to go ahead and do that. It's ridiculous. So now apparently at 9:48, Sione takes her home, the son-in-law. And during that beginning, they were like, Sione took her home, the family took her home, Sione and his wife took her home. They went through so many different variables, if you remember right, only to at the end change it to Tommaso took her home, her son-in-law. Okay. At 9:48. At 9:50, the garage door closes. It was open at 9:48, closes at literally 9:50. All right. 9:50. February the 1st. February the 1st. Now, January 31st is on a Saturday. February the 1st is on a Sunday. At 1:47 a.m., the doorbell camera at her home disconnects. You know, they've been pretty, for the most part, pretty on that as a beginning. At 2:12, the camera software detects motion, but no video is recorded. At 2:12 a.m., kind of consistent what they said. At 2:28, the pacemaker app disconnects from her phone. Now here, at the beginning, because they had no information as to why and what effect does that cause, okay? At the very beginning, a lot of people, even including us, thought, oh God, it disconnected. She must have became unalive at that moment. Everybody thought that from the beginning. Everybody thought that from the beginning, that she was unalive at that moment. Okay. It wasn't until we started to go ahead and several others started to go ahead and look up pacemakers and the operations and whatnot, which we did live on, to find out, no, that didn't mean she was unalive. That just meant that she was too far from the connection to her pacemaker, to the Wi-Fi, in this case, maybe even the phone, that she didn't have any connection. That's all it really meant. It didn't necessarily say that's when she became unalive, but that's the kind of information that they should have told everybody from the get-go. Because from the get-go, when they said that, everybody said, oh God, it disconnected. That's what we got to find out what the timestamp is, because that's when she became unalive. That wasn't true. And they let it out there, and they just kept it out there for a while until they had no choice but to come forward. Specialists, people in this profession were talking about how that was not accurate. Okay? Because it lost signal and disconnected, it was like kept trying to connect to send that information to where it goes to whoever her doctor is, their office, and it kept going over and over and over again until it finds that bandwidth, that connection that it needs. All right. So that's that. 2:28 a.m., the pacemaker disconnects. In the morning, a friend calls the family saying she didn't show up for church. Okay. At 12:15 p.m., family notifies Pima County. Now, when at this 2:28, when the pacemaker disconnects, the morning a friend calls, you have to understand that they were watching this on live, or they were watching this video on from New York, and they're 3 hours difference. Depending how they even figure that out, to was it recorded before, was it recorded after, it's 3 hours difference. When they called, I'm not sure exactly what time they called. I thought that we heard something like 11, somewhere in there, maybe 10 something that they called. Long story short, Annie and Tommaso end up coming out there to check on her mom. Now, we always looked at it as in, okay, give them a grace. Took them 15 minutes to get there. 11:15, because literally that's what Nano said they got there was at 11 o'clock. So we talk and put your shoes on, etc. 11:15, takes 15 minutes to get there. Let's just say, to be great, be nice about it. At 12:15 is when the family notifies Pima County Sheriff's Department. Now, this is what they're saying now. 12:15 p.m. they arrived. The Pima County Sheriff's Department police arrives for the find the missing call. But that call came in, if I'm not mistaken, it came in right at 11:56, somewhere in that frame. Okay. Now, you have to remember, they were there for probably almost 40, 50 some minutes. They were there at that house before anybody. They said they were searching, looking for her. And when they couldn't find her is when they ended up calling the Sheriff's Department. We're looking at it took them 4 or 5 minutes to get there. So that's why you see the 12:15 time. They get there. Obviously, it's discovered that her belongings, wallet, phone, car keys, everything that she needs, hearing aids, they're all in her bedroom on some type of nightstand. February the 2nd, the morning sheriff, Chris Nanos, confirms that the case is being treated as a crime scene and suspects. Now, this is after they went to the debacle of trying to figure out, that's what they don't say here. They were trying to decide, is this a walkaway? Is it not a walkaway? Did she just, leave? Did she not leave? What did they find? Well, they found the back doors open with planters holding the back doors. People said, why would the back doors be open with planters holding them? Why would they have left those doors open? Were they going to go out the back? Were they going to go out what happened? Why? That didn't make sense. The gate was even held open with a planter. So the idea is that all this stuff supposedly was happening. Now, there's been many different debates as to they had a lot of time. Did they have to help clean up the area, make sure everything was good to go? They had time to clean up, tidy everything up. I mean, you can't throw that theory out the window. And then the other thing was that literally they had time to do all this. Did they use chemicals? Did they need to air out the chemical smell so no one would notice? So they opened the doors. There's so many different things, possibilities. We don't know. We don't know exactly. We just know that's the time frame they gave us. So morning second, Sheriff Nails confirms the case is being treated as a crime suspect. She was abducted. The public appeals family urges neighbors to review their home video cameras and etc. Now, this is a time when those notes had come in, okay? Those notes had come in. This is a time when they talked about literally the notes, okay? And on the, see here, I want to make sure I get this right. On the 2nd, they received a note on February the 2nd, which is pretty standard. If you look at from the 31st, literally from the 31st to the 2nd, you're going to hear something about the kidnappers or whatnot, that they want that information. They want that, they want to make that transition. Okay. So the note goes on to talk about, we have your mother, Nancy Savannah. She is safe but scared. She will be held for ransom once payments received, released unharmed. We will be holding her for a maximum of 7 days. You will need to send Bitcoin for $4 million by 5 p.m. in U.S. dollars on Thursday the 5th. If payment's not received, then it goes up to $6 million, okay, by the 9th at 5 p.m. And if you don't do that, then she's done. Morning, Didi. Good morning, Annie. So basically that first note, they tell you exactly what they're wanting her to do, what the time frame. Okay. It is best to interest of everyone. If you have completed as soon as possible, they will not be able to contact me. All that stuff. Now, there was a lot of stuff that was also said that they never told us about. So here we're running kind of blind, right? Because there was information we know now, but we didn't know it then. So it was like everybody was like, pay the ransom, because of the fact that why wouldn't you pay the ransom? TC, good morning, DD and chat. So now you go on, and then on the line in the note was redacted by officials before being released to the public. The last line of the note included details about Guthrie's home that led investigators. This is the part they didn't tell us about. The last line of the note included details of Guthrie's home that led investigators to take it seriously, including the description of the location of her Apple Watch with a white wristband in reference to the front light and exactly at the back porch and where that wristband was at. Okay. That all came later. That did not come with everything. They left that bottom part out. So in the minds of everybody's thinking, okay, if they pay the ransom, they'll get their mom back. And Light Body is in the house. Where is video AT and camera being questioned? Most police have video. Yeah, we're not there yet right now. So we'll get there, but we're just not there yet. The second note from February 6th was addressed to the Guthrie family. Okay. Guthrie family, we did not fully grasp. Now, this is what they're saying. We did not fully grasp the seriousness of her physical condition. You guys all read the note. You heard it probably a million times. We did not intend to hurt her, not intention, We believe it was heart related, that she had passed, yada, yada, yada. They never released that information. So they knew on the second note, they were already claiming she had passed. And this came out on February the 6th. Now, what doesn't make sense is on the 9th, they had till the 9th Savannah deposit $6 million in Bitcoin. Okay. But they didn't even wait till the 9th to see if it was going to get deposited. They literally on the 6th sent another note saying she's gone. She perished shortly after. We did not grasp the seriousness of her physical condition. They knew she was sick. They knew she wasn't very well. Okay. They knew she had heart problems. They didn't know it was that bad, they said. Well, they knew she had problems. They knew she was 84 years old. Okay. Nothing you could have done could have changed the outcome. We want your family to know and hope you all can find peace. That letter, that note from the second note was totally different from the first one. The first one was, don't meet the deadlines. She's gone. Second note, we're sorry, we're sorry, we're sorry, we're sorry, we're sorry. All empathy comments to the family. Now, I'm going to sit here and tell you that because we didn't know about all this other stuff until here recently, literally probably 4.5, 5 months ago, we didn't know about this stuff. So here everybody's thinking they already told them by the 6th that she has gone. And then you ask the question, well, why would they say that? Why would they say that and not collect on their ransom? Well, because they know they can't show a proof of life, for one. And it very well could have been the whole plan all along was to unalive her, right? It's very possible. So that's another element here. Had they told everybody what it said there, people could have come to terms like, dang, man, they literally unalived her. Now we got to look for literally not for somebody who's alive. We got to look for somebody who's been unalived. Maybe a hole. Maybe they stick her in a hole. Maybe they put her in here or there. Instead, they make it seem like she's running around nilly-willy, that they're taking her everywhere. So therefore, the focus is not she's buried somewhere. The focus is, because they didn't tell us that part, the focus is let's go ahead and just look for her. Let's look all over. Maybe she's at this house or maybe she's at that house. You understand what I'm saying? The confusion was just ridiculous. All because they didn't want to tell us at the very beginning that is what happened according to the second writer. TC, they just wanted a letter saying that she passed to get, probably so, TC. But at the time, that wasn't even in play. We didn't think who could have been it. We didn't even know a suspect existed or a person of interest existed, right? So in all fairness, we didn't even know that. And that's what this whole thing is about. What we don't know when everything was happening, right? What we didn't know. Marianne, welcome in, Marianne. We didn't know all these stuff was happening because they didn't let us know. And yes, you're right as to it most likely was to get a death certificate, but they never let us know that. So that wasn't even in play. You know what I'm saying? It was not in play. And that's what this whole thing is about. Wasn't in play to us. Right. Well, that's what this is about. This is about what we knew at the beginning and what we know now as to what transpired. So we didn't know none of this. But then to come find out that literally they went ahead and had this information. And then if you look at the timeline, what did they do after the day and a half? They not shut down, but they scrolled back the searching. But they didn't tell us why. None of that made sense to us because we were like, well, how can you just stop searching? My God, she's alive. She could be alive out there. You know, she's alive. And we never understood that reason. Now, I will say this. I believe in my heart that literally, Savannah was told, the family was told she is no longer with us. They had to have known because they had to tell them. They are the family. Okay, they are the family. They had to keep them abreast on what was happening. But that's the whole point. They didn't tell the American people. Therefore, you had people searching here, searching there. You had going here, going there. But the people that should have been searching, like EquiSearch and Cajun Navy, they were never allowed to search. And we're looking at them going, how crazy is that? You just, and for whatever reasons, Nanos did not need their services, so he said. So it's important to understand that, because that's exactly what we're talking about right here. Okay, that's what we're talking about. The idea that literally they didn't tell anybody. Now we know. So now we go back to the timeline. February 2nd, the sheriff, Jersey lady, I don't understand why they stopped searching, whether they were looking for her or her body. I don't understand that either, Jersey lady, but here's what I will say. It would have been nice to know what was written completely on that second note, because people could have then said, now they're saying she's unalive. Let's look for something on the ground in the washes, in the septic tanks, and places where you wouldn't think about. But I believe a lot of people were still thinking she's alive, so they were looking for somebody in a car, in a house, somebody that stuck out. They were looking for somebody that was still alive, when in reality, it may have been she was already deceased. We just didn't know that. So February the 3rd and the 4th, the CTV request Sheriff's Department asked residents within 2 miles of the home to submit the videos, yada, yada. We remember that. Public pleas. We also know some people, come to find out later, some people didn't do that. Some people didn't give their CCTVs when they were requested to. And Nanos could have subpoenaed them to get them, but he never did. Why? That's another mystery question there. Why didn't Nanos do that? What was the reason he didn't subpoena? Because he could have subpoenaed. He could have said to a judge, look, this is right off the roadway. Those cameras are facing the roadway. We believe she was taken in a vehicle. We're trying to pin down the vehicle. They would have definitely got an approval to get those subpoenas, but he never did it. He never did it. I don't know the answer to that, and I don't think we'll ever know the answer to why. Public pleas. Savannah, Annie, and Cameron Guthrie issued multiple appeals via social media. Now, this time, when they're doing this on February the 3rd and the 4th, or the 4th, they already know what those letters said. They already know what those letters said. That she was literally, this is what they needed to do with the ransom. And so they're talking from that point, okay? And then all of a sudden, on the 6th is when they get that second part to it, that they say she's been alive. That's the problem, see? There was no communication by the Sheriff's Department, in my opinion. None, zero. Everything we were finding out was so far down the road. It wasn't like right now. It was so far down the road. That's the problem. Okay, then the evidence of the suspect leads authorities find items on the roadside. They found the gloves. They found different things. They concluded that it came to some restaurant of some sort, that one restaurant that Nancy and Savannah and Annie had attended when they brought her out there when they were doing that special about where Savannah grew up and all that stuff. The FBI took the 2 ransom notes seriously, and those other 2 notes that even Savannah said she believed were real. Search expands to surrounding areas. Family continues public appeals. Now, the search expands, but it's not like expands. They quit the search. They just, well, let me say, they didn't quit. They just download drastically the search. So if you had X amount of people, now you only have X amount of people. That type of thing. February 16 to 18, 16 to the 28th. Now, going back to February, we also know that sometime during February, I think it was February the 13th. Yes, the 13th. They issued a search warrant for the house of Luke Daly and his mom on the 13th. And on the 12th, the day before, they went ahead and picked up, if I'm not mistaken, Kayla Day on a warrant. They picked her up. Now, the irony is that Kayla Day, it appears by everything we have seen, was had something going on with LD. Okay, literally, like there were an item or something. That's what scuttlebutt was. I don't know if it's actually been validated, but it appears that's what it was. My opinion. Um, the idea that they went ahead and arrested her, and then the very next day get a judge to sign off on a search warrant for Luke Daly speaks a lot of volume. Okay, so they issue that, they do that. They also went ahead and went down to Rico Rio and issued a search warrant for Carlos as well. Okay, he was actually the first one, and then it was he was the second one, and then it was Kayla Day, and then it was LD. Okay, needless to say, the moral of the story is that nothing came out of it. After 5 hours and searching Luke Daly's vehicle that he had, the Range Rover, and looking in the house and property and all of that, nothing came out of it. Just nothing. Okay. At this point that we know of, they took some items, but we don't know what items they took. They wouldn't tell us, obviously. February 29th, case status still open, no resolution. Okay. So that's what they have down as the first 30 days. Okay. But we know now that in this process, we find out through a lot of streamers and a lot of different people that are talking online, we find out about the top door stamps, the garage stamps. We find out about they took literally Tommaso's and Annie's car for approximately 40 plus days. We hear that there is a telemetrics in that vehicle that will tell you everywhere that car has been. We know that during this process, we find out that they're going to Annie and Tommaso's house to look for searching it with their approval, of course. They didn't need to go ahead and issue any search warrants. They voluntarily said, yeah, you can go ahead and search. And they looked approximately on 5 different times inside and outside that house, 5 different times. So that's crucial information because it's like they spent so much time, almost like, in my opinion, that they were finding something and then they would go back and look to see if they could find that item or items. And then they would come back. And then a little bit later on, when I say later on, days on, they'd come back, search it again. And then they come back, and they kept doing that a total of 5 different times. And their car was literally sent to Quantico, to Richmond, Virginia, which is where they do all the, breaking down the vehicle to look for all this evidence. It's in Richmond, Virginia, not in Quantico, but it's a part of Quantico, part of the FBI. And they went ahead and did all this stuff. And they kept the car forever, 40 plus days, something to that effect. They even ended up taking Nancy's car that was in her garage, just in case somebody had used her car, or if somebody had put their hands on the outside of the car, got fingerprints or whatnot, they took her car as well, and they returned it after so many days. Okay. Now, the idea is we did see them towing it, so it's not like we didn't see that happen. But the information starts to play out that when we start finding out about the telemetrics and what it says, what can the telemetrics tell you? Well, it can tell you how many people was in the car, right? Because they have a seat density that tells how many people are sitting in what part of the seat of the car. It tells you where that car has ever been. It's got it's basically, for a better lack, there's a computer called telemetrics, and it's a computer inside the front, underneath the dash of the car. So they were able to get that information. They're going to be able to see, what doors opened that day. They're going to be able to compare timestamps with maybe the garage door timestamps when they opened. Were they there approximately at this time? It's going to be a little off. It won't always be exactly. Okay, it could be off minutes. It could be off hours. Hell, it could be off literally several hours. Okay, but you can get an idea of whether that car was there or not. So they're going to know whether they're going to know whether they showed up or not. Okay, hang on, everybody. Give me 1 second. Oh, got you. So I just needed to Thank you, man. Appreciate you. God bless. And if you need, God bless you. Sorry, buddy. Somebody came to the door. So now there's a lot of things there that has happened that we haven't seen, right? A lot of things that we're now figuring out that we didn't know, literally. So it's important to understand that. Chris, there's the link if you want to come in. So that's where we're at on that. So the idea that now the telemetrics is going to be able to tell exactly. They never said they took the telemetrics. They never said they took anything like that. But guess what? We know that they had that car for that long a time. We know they were investigating because that vehicle was the vehicle that was supposed to be used by the son-in-law to take Nancy home, supposedly. So that's going to be able to show if it arrived at that house, right? It's going to be able to show if it came to that home. They're going to be able to do some checks and balances. So the idea is that that's what we did learn. So see, there's information there that is so crucial because it deals with how could they know if she was brought back? Well, the only way you're going to know, really truly know, other than an eyewitness, which they don't have, other than Tommaso, the only way you're going to know is to see if even that car arrived at the house. Because if that car, Sione's car, never arrived at the house, and guess what? If it never arrived, then they have a problem if it never arrived on that day. You follow me? So they're going to know that. They're going to know these things. It's not like it's a mystery. They're going to know whether that vehicle literally arrived or didn't arrive. Follow me? They're going to know. They are going to know. We're not going to know, but they're going to know. So that's information that we found out later, that through sleuthing and processing and watching other people, we were able to pick up this information. So that was like really golden, because it is very obvious they're going to know one way or the other if that vehicle that Tommaso was driving to drop her off showed up at the house. There's a lot of other little things that you can piece together on timestamps to see. They're not going to be always perfect, and there is going to be little differences as far as maybe, like I said, minutes to hours off. Okay, minutes to a few hours off. But what's not going to be off is whether that car showed up or not, right? Whether it was here or it wasn't here. That's what it's going to show. So if they look at the telemetrics and they look and they pull up where that vehicle's been, and that vehicle does not show up at the house on the 31st, somewhere in that time frame at approximately 9:48 or whatnot, Houston, we got a problem. You follow me? We have a problem. That's fine. No problem, Chris. Marianne, we know that you know, but we want to know what you know. So that's important, because that's how they're going to be able to tell. Be safe, Chris. That's how they're going to be able to tell whether, in fact, he showed up there. The telemetrics. And if you go to our earlier live, we did a whole thing on the telemetrics. We did a whole thing on the timestamp. We did a whole thing on the pacemaker, to get an idea of, in fact, information that we obtained. We didn't know that in that first probably 2 weeks. Hell, we probably didn't know that until probably 4 weeks down the road, maybe even 3 to 4 weeks down the road. My point is, that's what we've learned so far, all the new information, how you apply it now, and it starts to make sense. So when people say, did Tommaso really showed up there? I don't know if he really came to Nancy's. Well, true. We don't know, but I almost guarantee you the FBI knows, because they took the telemetric system. They took it out of that vehicle and they processed it. So they're going to know if that car showed up or not. You follow me? We won't know, but they will know. They won't tell us. They won't tell us until they're ready to go ahead and make an arrest or charge somebody. But the reality is, they're going to know. They're going to have that information. And if it didn't show up there, that's one check. Now let's go see where else are we looking for? You follow me? It's not like they're going to, if they didn't find the car showing up that day, that they're going to just go ahead and say, okay, let's go get them. No, they still have to process their information and try to find more evidence to piece it all together. That's how it works. Deb, but we want to, I'm with you, Deb. I want to know desperately bad, but we don't know. But they know. And this is what I said when we did that live. I said, guys, either he dropped her off or he didn't. It's that simple. And either they're going to know that leads them to continue to persist and look for more evidence. Well, it's kind of funny how they went almost 5 times to Annie and Tommaso's home searching for evidence, gathering evidence outside and inside the house. And most of that was, they allowed them to search. So it wasn't like they had to get a warrant. I think they only had like one warrant they had to do, was because they were taking the vehicle and having it processed. I think that's the only warrant, or the only search warrant that they had to give to Annie and Tommaso. The search warrant was because they were taking that vehicle. Short of that, yeah. Marianne, at first, no news said it was family. Then a family member just tells us who dropped her off. Right, exactly. So the information that we got at the beginning of this case wasn't everything. That's why nothing made sense. That's why nothing made sense. Because we're projecting one thing because of what they said, but they're just not telling us the whole narrative of what they know. You follow me? And that's the issue that I have. Once again, I go back to the beginning where if they had told us, if they had showed us that second note that said she was perished on the 6th, they said she has perished and, did the whole poultry thing, then we could understand and say, wow, we're probably looking for a person who's been buried somewhere. Okay. The search dynamics would have taken a different course. You follow me? It would have taken a different course. You could have got GPR, ground penetrating radars. You could have done so many different things to search the ground. But nothing. They didn't say anything about it until later. What was going on during that time? You had a house nearby that was getting a brand new pool put in. They were putting in concrete. Who's to say? I'm just throwing it out there as who's to say that person didn't have that? You follow me? Who's to say that person couldn't have been involved? I'm not saying they were or weren't, but you understand why it's important to know. You had people putting up pools, laying new concrete on their patios or whatnot, but no one's checking it. Why? Because no one knows. No one knows what the hell they're talking about. Welcome in, Wayne. Welcome in. 5 times. Yes, 5 times. Thank you, Caroline. Appreciate you always supporting the channel. So the idea is that they never told us. So here, people are looking for evidence in all the wrong places. And they're looking for somebody who is, for all sake and purposes, alive, when they didn't tell us that, but about a month and a half ago, not even that, about less than a month ago, they told us, oh yeah, it got leaked. Next thing you know, they had to share it to the people that, yeah, she was unalived as early as, according to the first 2 ransom notes, as early as the 6th of February. Dude, that's 7 days gone by, 31st to the 6th. Within that 7 days, she had become unalive. And what are we doing? We're searching for somebody who's literally alive. Big difference. Big difference. And we're just now finding out this. I get it. They have to hold certain information back. I get that. Been there, done that. I know you can't show all your cards. But that's a big card. And that is a serious card, because that's something where people are going to be looking for. They're going to be looking for, if I think someone's alive, I'm looking at possibly sheds. I'm looking at possibly barns. I'm looking at possibly, anything outside the box. But if she is deceased, 9 out of 10, I'm looking at buried somewhere, right? It's just common sense. Brooke Knowles. Good morning, Brooke. Good morning, Bible. 3 people were found in a grave underneath plywood that was dug for a casket in my city. She could be near there in concrete, like you said. Very possible, Bible. That's the whole point. But because they never went ahead and shared any of this, it's almost like everybody is just running blind, looking anywhere and everywhere. Well, that would explain why you saw the major shift in the search. And that's probably why you saw the family not say a whole lot about searching, because they got that information. No doubt about it. They got that information, what that note said. Okay. So at some point they had to realize, take that deep breath and say, she's probably gone. It's just that simple, guys. It's just that simple. East Coaster, breaking news. CNN is now reporting that Nancy has been found. Okay. So, Brooke, good morning, Marianne, Wayne, Bibling, AJ, good to see you. So, see what I'm saying? It's important to go back as an investigator, to go back and look at these things, because it's going to be eye-opener. It's going to be an eye-opener, because you're going to see things you never saw before. Okay? So now let's go back to, how does this play on Tommaso taking Nancy back home? They know whether he stopped there or not. We don't know. They know. They literally know. Okay? They know if that car was at that house at approximately that time. We don't know, but they know. They literally being the FBI. Wayne, it was a mom and two young men. Where you headed? So that's the whole point there. Off topic for a second. Where's Elle? Has anybody heard from her? Hope she's okay. I have no idea. I have not heard from her at all. She's normally in here, but I know her kids play sports, so she might be doing some soccer thing with the kids. That's the only thing I can think of. Carolina. Marianne, she was here. Yeah, she was here yesterday. And if anybody hears from Gronsky, he's also on my where's Gronsky at? He's going silent. So now we're talking about they know where if he showed up or didn't. So that's going to come towards the end when they decide they have enough evidence to maybe prosecute somebody or file charges against somebody. That's when it's going to come out. It's not going to come out anytime soon. I've said it before to everybody. We're not going to hear that golden nugget that we've been waiting for. Oh, here it is, or here's this is. You're going to hear when you see your breaking news say, breaking news, Nancy Guthrie, suspect has been arrested. That's what you're going to hear. You're not going to hear anything because there isn't anything to really give you because they've mucked this investigation from the beginning. You know what I'm saying? They mucked it. They mucked it so bad that just things were done, what I would say, backwards, for a better lack of words, and being nice. Anyway, we can't blame any of this. Deb, I still have questions about the long-haired neighbor who moved shortly after Nancy got to disappear. That was weird timing. Hope he's being watched. And not just him, Deb. That's a good point. But not just him. How about the three people that left on top of the hill right after this happened? They took off. And they all went to different, all three of them. I think there was two guys and a girl. They all just kind of like, poof, split quickly right after this happened. I think one was said to have gone to Mexico. One went to some other country, and another one just lives like in the area. But they don't tell us their names. We don't know who their names are. Marianne, didn't Gronsky say he was going? I thought that's what he said, Marianne. I just wasn't sure. But I did think he said he was going on a vacation. Carolina girl, okay, thanks. I was tied up on the phone between DirecTV and Dish 2. I missed yesterday's show. Thank you, Didi, and everyone. Marianne, you got it. Deb, right. 3 could have worked together. It's just, once again, they don't give you nothing, so you got to try to figure it out yourself, and it's kind of hard when you don't have any type of those information. So now you go on that timeline, and now you've done the 30 days, and what do you have to show for the 30 days? Well, if we go to the 30 days, not a damn thing. Nothing. Because of this information, really, most of it didn't come till after that. And a lot of it just came out recently with the notes, the ransom notes. So there's not a whole lot that they told us. But what is it that we do know? Well, we find out that there was a car, a blue car, with a woman yelling, screaming, literally, for help. Now, I know some have said that's been debunked, or that's been, no, the only thing we know is that Nano said it had nothing to do with the case. But that's what he said about every new information that has come in. That has nothing to do with the case. That has nothing to do with that. That's like that's the only word he knows, the only sentence he knows. That has nothing to do with the case. You understand what I'm saying? So it's not like that holds any water to me, in my opinion. Hey, Annie, it's funny. A and T left their home. Maybe she won't want to stay there because Nancy remains there and it bothers her. Very possible. Bible still puzzled by the guy that pulled up, then asked the streamer if he was T. Yes, very, very true. Know exactly what you're saying. Yeah, he asked and then had that glazed eyes when 857 told him that believes there's a couple people up there that were talking to the FBI and gave them some information, and he looked like he was just wigged out after that comment was made. Deb, how would he know? So see, that's the whole point. So we don't know literally everything that we need to know. Virginia, good morning. Welcome in, Virginia. Oleg, I don't think they would have had Nancy loose in a car and being able to shout out, open a door. Well, I don't know if their plan was ever to take her. To be honest, Oleg, I don't know if the plan was ever to take her. And I'm not sure if that was her or not. I'm just saying it would have been nice to be able to hear that, but to always hear the notion that everything is always has no relation to it. Well, we know that can't always be right either. Just in my opinion. Good point. Marianne, hi Virginia, Bill, Virginia, Bible. So the whole point is there's not anything that they have really given us that we have found out most of the things. When I say we, I'm talking about streamers, people who are investigating these cases, prior law enforcement. They have found out, okay? We have all found out the hard way. Nothing by anything Nanos has said, to be honest, or the FBI for that matter. So what else do we know? Well, now we know that all of a sudden we see here recently, and I say recently, probably in the last few months, maybe even longer than that, maybe 6 months ago. So probably within the last, probably after the first month, A&T are not living in their home no more. No one has seen them. They have kept quiet. No one knows where they're at. I think one time they were out in their home, and that's when I think Mark the Shark went up there, and what's his name? T ended up telling Mark not to record him. That type of thing. Remember, they were outside in the front lawn. But after that time, I don't think I've ever seen them out. And I know they're not there because we never see their car there or anything there. Bible says, what if they were really playing the kidnapping game and things went wrong? Very possible. I mean, it's possible. Only because that's what they always did for fun. And so that's a good possibility. Oleg, listen to the neighbor's interview by Brian Enton. Okay, Oleg, I will do that. But that's where we're at. Carolina, it has nothing to do with, and you can't park here. Yeah. Deb, the whole family seems strange. So now you hear nothing from A&T. You don't even hear. I think the only other time we saw them was somewhere, I don't know, about 2 months later. We saw them going to that shrine, to Nancy's shrine in front of her house. We saw them going there. We saw them, laying the infamous card that Annie laid and whatnot, and pay respects to the shrine that's in front of Nancy's home. That's like the only time I've seen them, and that Savannah was there during that time. But once again, it goes back to lack of information that this department has put out. You can't search for something you don't know what the hell you're searching for. You can't go ahead and search for something when you don't even have all the details. You can't search for something, and you shouldn't stop someone else from searching when they're volunteering to search, like Agent Navy and EquiSearch. Makes no sense. Makes no sense whatsoever. So Now you go into what else do we know? Well, we know that there's a connection there with then you talk about the phone call, the phone call from DC, Hawthorne, California to either A or T. He made a phone call to somebody about in the family, A or T. Maybe some has suggested maybe the son. He had made a 9-second phone call. Okay, right after he sent a text message to A and T asking them if they have received the Bitcoin, that they're waiting on their end to make the transaction. Okay, now he's sent them to court and whatnot. Still has to go to. They did a. He took a plea deal and they went ahead and they're going to go back to court September the 10th. So my point is, we don't really know what the heck happened there. Cecily Robinson, good morning, Cece. You understand what I'm saying? So now DC ends up texting them, asking them this. Why them? Why, of all people, them? Why text Annie Tommaso? Everything's been directed at this point to Savannah, possibly because Savannah has the monetary means. So then why in the hell are they calling, or why are they messaging Annie and Tommaso to see if they got their Bitcoin? Makes no sense. Makes no sense whatsoever. So now you have that. Okay. And that when he did that, they never told us who did DC from Hawthorne, California, who did he call? They won't even tell us if it was mom or dad or maybe even son. Now the son, maybe because of his age, he's underage. But then if it's the mom or the dad, they never told us who it is. It's a phone call. It's, I know it's under investigation, but my God, it would speak volume, We just don't know. And we still don't know at this point. So we do understand that capacity. That's information we have obtained, information we have gotten, okay, information we have put together. And then if you go on, you find out that this Mojito is the manager of Hawthorne guy and Tommaso. And we know what they do, what he does, and his DJing. He is a DJ, but he's also the manager of Hawthorne and T. A would have met him. Hawthorne guy would have known him. Kayla Day knows him because she works doing tattooing and piercing before she was incarcerated at his venues. So she knows him. Kiki and the photographer know them. Webby, who was married to KD, she knows him. It almost seems like everybody in that circle, Mojito has a line to all of them, literally. Tentacles to every one of them. Is that a coincidence? I don't think so. Oleg, to incriminate them, make them look like they're involved. Deb, not it doesn't make sense. He was either tricked into making the call or he made it as an acquaintance himself, wondering what's going on. It's just interesting how all these anomalies are coming together. Click that like, everybody. Do me a favor. Click the like. Hit the hearts. Hit the emojis. Get those algorithms going, everybody. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. And if you are a subscriber, become a member in the house. Be a devil pup investigator. So that's what we have here. We have a lot of stuff that we now know that we didn't know, you know? And yet the one thing we don't know is who took Nancy? How has this remained that quiet? You know, the idea that they're giving us no information and a lot of things we had to piece together. Now you have constantly A and T. You have Savannah that just came out a week ago, approximately a week ago, and she did a video pleading to the kidnappers to tell her where her mom is at, the location where they're buried. Okay, she pleaded to them in that, but not so much a plea, more than a direct messaging, a direct statement to them. And it appears that she's singling out the person of the second writing of that note, because that second writer of that note had nothing but empathy for Savannah, had nothing but comments about this was not, you couldn't have done nothing to prevent this. This is not your fault. Sorry, we didn't realize her basically, for, and I'm just paraphrasing for better lack of words, her health condition. We knew she was not well, but obviously we didn't know it was that bad, and I'm paraphrasing. But that's the whole point. Nothing, zero, and the idea that they're saying all this stuff, she's making these comments, and it almost seems like she's directly talking to somebody who's close to the family. Literally. Like she's literally talking to someone in the family. That's what it appears to me. And she's telling that person, hey, you try to do everything right. We have done everything right. You can still come home. The world can be a cruel place. All these type of things, like keep trying to let Savannah know it's not your fault. It's okay. It's not your fault. There's nothing you could have done to prevent it. Sympathy. Look, there's no kidnappers out there that will kidnap for ransom or kidnap for personal gain that gives two iotas about the person they're kidnapping, whether they become unalive or not. They couldn't care 2 cents. Okay, they just wash their hands and move on and out to the next person. So the idea that they have remorse and feelings and this and that, not happening, unless this agony that was shown by Savannah and talk at the press, meetings that they would do when they were trying to ask questions or when they were trying to plead to the kidnappers, for a better lack of words, in that, almost like feeling guilty that she's taking it so hard, and they're basically telling her, don't worry, it's okay, you had nothing to do with it, yada, it's not your fault. When in reality, it's like, no, it isn't your fault. It's the people who took her that's the fault. You follow me? There's so much there that we didn't know that now we know. And I believe literally that that's where that pendulum is starting to go towards people that are close to the mob. It's starting to go that way. It's just really, really bad. Then you hear Luke Daly give an interview to Brianna Whitney when she was working at KOLV, and you hear the interview that did nothing but incriminate him bigger than shit. I mean, I hate to say it, but it was really bad. You welcome, Deb. You welcome. Bible, I think it was well planned for sure. So far, they have gotten away even while taunting the family. AJ Wright, 1.2 million questions. Where is Nancy, AJ? Well said. Do you know how the witness protections work? I know of the witness protections. I know that only certain individuals are going to know where this person is put, and they can use so many different. There's like so many different playbooks of who knows and who is told depending on the severity of what's going on. So yes, to answer your question for the most part, I think yes, I would say yes, I do know. But that's where we're at. That's what's happening. City Chick says, when Savannah said we have done our part and you have tried to do the right thing, it makes me think that maybe she paid a Bitcoin to the guy that says he has the receipts of. And you're right, City Chick. I agree. I think without a doubt, that is a fair assessment there. That's exactly what Savannah probably did is she paid the Bitcoin or paid whatever it was. And now she's saying, hey, we don't have our mom back, but you can still do the right thing. You can always come home. I think she was telling them, give us our mom back, but I don't think that was ever in the cards. I don't think that was ever in the plan that they were going to release Nancy, in my honest opinion. Melly, good morning, DD and chat. So it's just the idea that was probably never in the cards, you know? And then you say, well, what was the gain? Well, who would have gained by Nancy being gone? I mean, literally, who would have gained? The people that were taking care of her, the people that were family that was watching her, who would have gained by it? If you're talking about a ransom, paid ransom, well, yeah, somebody would have gained. But if you're talking the overall big picture, who would have gained? They would have got everything because they were the ones that were taking care of her. They were the ones that were taking care of Nancy. They were the ones taking her to her doctor's appointments, picking up her medications, making sure their mommy had, was well taken care of. Savannah was living in New York. Cameron was in Rhode Island or wherever in the heck he was up the East Coast. So really, the only one that's left is Annie, and she was taking care of her mom. So who would have benefited from that? Well, I think you know who I'm saying. It just makes perfect sense to me. That's why they have always been at the top of my list. They have always been people of interest to me, people that I think the FBI needs to talk to again. And now when you see that no one's doing anything, no one's just like, they're not saying anything with Jesus. It just makes it look even worse. Cameron is from Vermont. Okay. Yeah, that sounds right. Thank you, Marianne. City Chick says TNA had all game and I think was all staged to look like a kidnapping. Everything played out perfectly for them. It's possible. I'm not going to sit here and say no because it is possible. But that's how you have to break this stuff down. You got to go back to what you miss. You got to go back to the beginning to see how does this make sense now. But that interview that LD did with Brianna Whitney was horrible. I mean, it was almost like sealing his whole faith. Literally. He didn't do himself any justice whatsoever. I mean, just the idea that how this sheriff handled himself in this case is just really disappointing. She was not taken to be returned. This was their plan, and it worked. Prove me otherwise. Yeah, I agree with that, Virginia. Don't need to prove anything. I agree with you. Good morning, Marianne. AJ, 100% agree, Virginia. This is why it's so complex because a lot of this information should have been shared with the people and it wasn't. And that's the problem. AJ, 100%. City Chick, Savannah and Annie obviously weren't close because when Annie called Savannah to tell her that the mom was missing, the first thing Savannah said was, "What's wrong?" when she answered the phone. Very true. Very true. That's a good point. Marianne, going morning, Melly. Good morning, Melly. Virginia Kimbler, hello, my good to you. My good morning to you. You welcome in. Welcome in, Virginia. So, who else could have played a role in this whole debacle? Who else could have played a role? I mean, with everything that we know, who else do you think could have been a person of interest? A legitimate person of interest. Not just, oh, maybe the pool guy. Oh, maybe the landscaper. No, I'm talking about a specific interest. Who could have literally been the person? Melly, Virginia, good morning. Marianne, oops, good. LOL. So, see, when you start looking at it, I don't see anything other than someone close to the family. Someone who was close to the family. Virginia, good morning. Says Melly, Marianne, ha. That's when you know it's not good because everything seems to keep pointing that way. The letters, the videos, the comments, what they were saying. I mean, it all points to somebody close to the family. They knew her health. They knew she was, for a better lack of words, had issues with her heart. They knew that by startling her, she would probably become unalive. You know, they knew the fact that she was alone. They knew she wasn't feeling well, and yet they did all this. How does that happen in a vacuum? Annie, I just believe it was right and T, R and T. Why opinion won't change till they pressure them wrong. Marianne, I'm not sure anymore. Totally understand that. Carol, what did you end up saying about the hair that was tested? It came back to nobody who is a suspect. It came back basically to nobody who is a suspect. DC should be person of interest aside from the ransom call. They haven't linked him to the kidnapping. Very well true. Wayne says, "Does anyone think she is alive?" I don't, Wayne. I really don't. I think she is gone, literally gone. Deb has interfered too much to screw everything up. No one in the position could mess up this much, be innocent. Carolina, I don't think she is Wayne. Annie, Dee Dee, I think she is Wayne. Annie, Dee Dee, I said no. I said T. Bruh, unfortunately, no. AJ, not not me, Wayne. If all these in the facts are real, you don't think you could have survived? Virginia, forgetting everything else, they knew it was old. Wayne, yes. So see, that's the whole thing. What else do we know? What else do we know? Who else is a player in here? Let's look at all of these. Can you think somebody honestly outside of TNA? Can you honestly think that there's somebody else that fits it better in your opinion? Because I don't see it. I really truly don't see it. going back to the beginning is always important because you learn a lot throughout the process of, especially of 6 months, that you come back and now you're trying to figure out, okay, who else would fit this? And honestly, guys, I can't tell you who would fit that. I don't know who would fit that. It's just the idea that once again, information has to be shared with everyone. You know, everyone needs to have that information, or how are they expected to go and find Nancy? That's just not feasible, everybody. This is why when you don't give good information and you don't let your POI do the talking, because he knows or she knows what exactly will be allowed to be stated, and you don't allow her or him to do that, to do their work. This is why you have so much misinformation. Marianne, after listening to different people over the past couple of days, I'm not really sure what to think. It's very confusing, Marianne. It really is. And I totally agree with you. It can be very, very confusing. Ransom notes don't make sense. The first one said the ransom not paid within 7 days going to her. Then the next one, the next ransom said, "Oh, sorry, we did. We are so sorry." Camp Girl, I've always thought several people were involved and each player a part in order to pull off this crime. Very well could be. At this point, I don't think that there's a whole lot of guessing going on. City J, we are so worried. We didn't mean for that to happen. None of this makes sense. It really doesn't. It's why I feel like they're talking to someone. They're talking to someone close to the family. I believe that wholeheartedly, without a doubt. They are talking to somebody in the family, in my opinion, or someone close to the family. Why would FBI be refused? Because someone doesn't want caught. How many times have we heard, in all fairness, how many times have we heard the sheriff mention A or T's name in this case? I'm asking the question, how many times have you heard the sheriff make comments or talk about A and T? I haven't heard any. Click that like button, everybody. Click that like and share it. Dab, why would FBI be refused because someone doesn't want caught? Oleg, never. Bible, zero. Then you go to the next thing. Annie, I believe that Nancy A and T had an argument and it went bad. Very possible. I mean, they only looked at that house over 5 times, right? That's without a doubt. AJ, FBI was ready to help day one and Nanos refused. And there's a personal thing there with Nanos. It's not like, he's just refusing because he's refusing. There's some friction that has been conveyed over this period between Nanos and Cash Patel from the FBI. Nanos won't even mention Nancy's name most of the time. I agree. I totally agree. It's probably because he ain't doing nothing to help the situation, in my opinion. City Chick says, absolutely, Brooke. Nanos won't even mention Nancy's name most of the time. He won't mention their name.
To who? To who?
He won't mention exactly. Like, the only thing he said that was interesting the other day was he said that nobody is,
To who?
he said nobody is, what word am I looking for?
To who?
Nanos ended up saying that nobody is cleared. He came out and said no one is cleared.
To who?
But before, he said the family was cleared. What changed? Did they find something that the FBI, are they onto something? Did they locate some stuff? Because now he's trying to backpedal and say, well, no one's been cleared. No, that's not what you said, Sheriff. You said family was cleared. City 3, absolutely. Brooks, agree. Brooks cleared. Marianne cleared. Brooks, yes, he's backtracking. Then you ask the question, why would he backtrack? Could it be that the FBI knows a lot more and they're just keeping it to themselves? Is this something that they're going to step up at some point and say, hey, this is what, this is, because I think it's coming, folks. I really do. I think it's coming. And maybe it's just wishful thinking, but I really think it's coming. Yes, he's backtracking, says Brooke. Nano said last night on interview, first when I asked what he thought, he said family, the neighbors. He said family, then neighbors. He can't remember all else. But when he first talked, he said, talk to Nancy, then said Savannah. KB, good morning, KB. Welcome in. Marianne, family and their spouses are cleared. That's what he said. And now in this interview, this latest interview, he's saying no one's cleared. Okay, so which one is it? Which one is it? Because no one's cleared. And yet I heard other streamers saying, well, Daniel said they were cleared because he did. And now it's like, no, I guess they're not cleared after all. Brooke, they did keep their car for over a month. They kept that car for, I would say, over 40 days, like 42 days. No doubt that's telling. No doubt, without a doubt. That's where I think you're going to see. And you remember when Nanos was talking about, good morning, KB. You remember when Nanos was talking about how the idea of, oh God, what was it? He was mentioning, Nanos was talking about that no one was cleared. He was saying that, that there was that the information that was going to be put together or that was going to break the case would be, for better lack of words, digital forensics and etc. Well, you got a damn digital, for a better lack of words, telemetrics in a vehicle. You got that as digital. You got the timestamp on the garage doors. You've got, there's so much. You got the pacemaker. You got the phone. You got when the electric, who cut off all the electric. And now I'm hearing something about, well, that wasn't anybody. That had nothing to do with it. Really? Because I just heard that. I think it was from Nano saying that cutting the electricity that went off had anything to do with Nancy. I don't know where he gets his information, no doubt. Melissa Curry, Facebook is going to drop the hammer on them. That's why FBI is going to drop the hammer on them. That's why Savannah is begging for them to do the right thing. I agree. That's, in my opinion, Melissa Curry, that is pretty spot on, without a doubt. I agree. That message was sent to them, in my opinion. Marianne, he broke off his friendship with T, so now it's a different story. Just saying, without a doubt, Marianne. Another great point. Another great point. He knows it's getting hot. He knows FBI has something. He knows it. So now he's like, I got to distance myself before I get dragged into this. You know what I'm saying? He's definitely pulling back without a doubt. Well said. Ole, where was the hair found? It was the bed, the hair. I think that's where it was found, was the bed. Must belong to Annie or T. SG was not around to change beds, or did Nancy have someone else change her beds for her? Yeah, I'm going to say it was somebody of one of them would make sense to me. Brooke, per Nanos, nothing that goes on in Pima comedy is related to Nancy. Well said, Brooke. Whiskey, frequency, Christy. Good morning. I am working, but enjoy listening. I have a good day, everyone. Thank you so much, Whiskey, frequency. Appreciate you. Don't forget to like and subscribe for free and be a Devil Pup investigator in the channel. Always glad to have you. So now we have this information that we have gathered. And what else do we know? What else did we know? Well, we know that apparently there was a white Kia car that was driving really fast through there. Remember the white Kia? The white Kia sold? Whatever happened to that? Did they ever even look for that car? Did they ever find that car? Did they ever find the individual? Remember the car, the white Kia sold? You know? What about literally, let's look at some other stuff. What about stuff dealing with that whole neighborhood? You know, the idea that even the friends, her church friends, are not talking about anything about it. Why? Like, what is the taboo here? AJ, DR4, you are always on it. Good to see you. Says Whiskey Frequency. Bro, that white Kia, that's not related. Nothing's related to Nanos. Well said, Brooke. Nothing is related to Nanos. Nothing that is a positive or a good thing or a possible, he says, not related. Ole, they found him. He was the late delivery, the papers. Interesting. AJ, I did not hear about that, Ole. Thank you. AJ. See, this is the whole point. A lot of the stuff that's happening right now in this case, you know, do I think Nancy is alive? Hell no. I think she is unalive big time. Do I think this goes up high up in the government conspiracy thing? No, I don't. Why? She was 84 years old. She had a lot of health problems. She had a lot of medical problems. Like, she was going to probably go within the next year or two, more than likely, because her health was deteriorating. So who's going to want to just take her out for something political? Makes no sense. It makes no sense. So then that asks the question, who had the most to gain? Who was going to get her estate? Who was going to get her mineral rights, if that's how it works? Who was going to receive the house, the monetary, everything else? Savannah didn't need it. Savannah's not going to take it because she doesn't need it. Cam, he doesn't really need it. Who is the only one that's going to gain, but they got to have a death certificate? You know who those two people are. And why did the second note say they didn't even wait till the 9th to see if Savannah would have deposited the $6 million in Bitcoin? No, they gave her till the 5th, and then if not the 5th, $6 million on the 9th, or she would be gone. They didn't even wait. They didn't even wait till the 9th. The second writer sent the letter off on the 6th. Who does that? You're there to get money, and then you don't even wait to the deadline. They could have said nothing and waited to see if she would have deposited that money at the deadline. by 5 o'clock. But they didn't even wait. Why? Ask yourself why they didn't wait. What was the reason? What was the reason? Maybe because it had nothing to do with, per se, Savannah's money. It had everything to do with all the rest of what they were going to get. I'm just saying it's a possibility, in my opinion. Ole, SG told everyone not to talk about the case per the neighbors told a streamer. Interesting. And I do remember hearing that, Oleg. Thank you. Appreciate that. Melissa, Nancy's friends are scared, old people afraid to talk. And old and scared, no doubt about it. Oleg, they all gain. I don't know about that. They all gain. I think the ones who really gain are A&T is the ones who really gain the most of all of them in reality. City check. No cars were ever spotted to my knowledge coming or leaving the neighborhood. However, man with backpack, most likely, in my opinion, walked through the wash undetected. Very good point, City Check. Very good point. And that's another thing. All the cameras that were outside, in the houses, the door cameras and Nest cameras and whatnot, how did none of them pick up a vehicle? We saw vehicles go by back and forth on Nancy's cam. Why did no one else have any other pictures or videos of cars going by? And why haven't they looked harder for vehicles that would fit the narrative? Makes no sense. Whiskey Frequency said, because they know she would have paid it. Then what could they do? True. That's a very good point. I didn't think about that point. If they had let Savannah paid it, A, they're going to take a chance on collecting it. They're going to chance on getting caught. B, how are they going to explain having that much money now? Because they're going to want to do stuff with that money. How are they going to explain that? That's a very good point, Whiskey Frequency. Very good point. So end it before it gets started. And now, hopefully, the judge will grant a unalive certificate, so then they can move on and figure out, how they're going to whoever Nancy left the everything with, the person she left everything with, her estate. And it's most likely going to be A&T, to be honest. Melissa says Nancy probably told them she's changing her will. Yeah, I heard that somewhere, Melissa Curry. I heard that somewhere that there was a mention that Nancy was going to change her will. There was also a thing that said before Nancy went missing, Annie and A&T went ahead and had their property surveyed. What the hell was all that about? I know somebody said, well, they were going to build a casita. I don't think that's the reason why they had their property surveyed. I really don't. Maybe it's because they want to know what they can do on their property and where no one will be allowed to come into their property. You know what I mean? I hate to think like that, but it's so true. Ole, click the likes, everybody. We got 40 in the house. Let's click the likes. Click the algorithm, support the channel. Let's get some memberships going for people if we can help support the channel. Click the hearts and everything else, everybody. Marianne, if A&T needed her money, house, why would they do this? Knowing they would possibly go to jail and leave their son without parents just don't make sense. If A&T needed her money, house, why would they? Well, because they're not. Well, here's the thing, Marianne. If they never released her, no one's ever going to know it was them, right? So here's the thing. Maybe it wasn't about them wanting money. Maybe it was about just offing her off so that a death certificate could come in and they would eventually get it all. I mean, you got to remember the idea that this note came in on the second that she was already gone. on February the 2nd? That's crazy that she was already gone. That note. It was the second part to that first note. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, it would make sense because then that just speeds up the process. And they would only go to jail if they got caught. But if they got rid of Nancy, then they're probably going to go ahead and not just get rid of her and never say nothing. For all we know, Savannah paid some Bitcoin somewhere because the way she was talking, it sounded like she did everything she could, and that was possibly to pay. They just never got the mom back. So she's saying, do the right thing. She's saying, go ahead and just tell us where we can find her. Give us a location. She doesn't care if these people get caught or not. She just wants her mother's remains to have somewhere to go to when she wants to talk to her mom at the graveyard with her dad buried next to her. I see that. But it's a good point if they get caught, but I don't think they would get caught because they haven't got caught. Annie 5443 said, they said in the beginning of all this, she argued and told them she was changing her will or on power of attorney. They don't say it no more. Yeah, they did. I heard that, Annie. You're right. They did talk about that was one of the things they were going to do was to go ahead and literally go ahead and she was going to change the power of attorney and change her will. And they probably thought, oh, hell no. I mean, once again, it's just, it would be wrong not to look at all aspects of it. Because right now, that's exactly what it looks like, without a doubt. KB, while there was no cars coming or going, there was lots of work trucks, dump trucks, and garbage trucks that they did not check. Without a doubt. There was a lot of things they didn't check. And you're right. There was a lot of construction going on. There was pools being put up. There was concrete being laid down. No one checked any of that. Good morning, Christy, says Melly. Whiskey Frequency, Melly 0303. Laughing it out, we survived. Melissa Curry, when the movie is made, when the movie is made, you should air it. Maybe I may do that, Melissa. Brooke, Nancy's house had a casita. We moved in there. They could have moved in there. There's so many things they could have done. So many things. This was definitely not a very good option. But maybe they were just tired of taking care of, mother-in-law and mom. You just never know. Melly, Christy, we sure did. Laughing, I hope you got some sleep. Brooke, nothing makes sense. Melly, hit that, smash that subscribe, and share the stream. Let's keep growing. This is an amazing community. Hoorah, thank you, Melly. Click that like, everybody. Whiskey Frequency, yes, ma'am, I did. Hopefully you did too. Thank you so much. Appreciate you, Whiskey. City Check. The second one was sent that quick because they needed the proof of debt. Right. I agree with that. The sooner they would get it out there, the sooner they could get that dynamics out there, the sooner they could get this thing processed at some point. 6 months later, no medication. It's going to be probably easier now for a judge to grant that she is no longer alive. They're not going to have to wait for that full 2 years or whatever. The judge could grant it this pretty damn quick, without a doubt. It's a good point, City Check. Melly, Christy, it was about 4 a.m. I had to take care of something at Nikki's. Whiskey, Melly 03, I saw that too. Melly, Christy, disrespectful people, they're all over, Melly. Disrespectful people are everywhere. Melly, Christy, disrespectful people. Deb, when she said they did their part, what else would be but that they paid? That's it. That's the most obvious, Deb. That's what is telling me they paid a ransom and they never got the body back, her remains. And I think that's why she was saying, you can still do the right thing. You can tell us where she's at. You can tell us the location. You get to come home. You can come home anytime you want. I think that's exactly who she was directing that to, without a doubt. Well said, Deb. Well said. Deb, why did T take NG home by himself that night? I thought that's strange. It would be strange. It is strange only because Annie could have gone with him. Annie could have gone, and we don't even know if Annie did or didn't. They say she didn't, but we don't really know that verbatim. But if you go with what they said, yeah, she didn't. It was just T. But that is strange, without a doubt. No more stranger than why would they have an Uber pick her up and take her to their house? Why not just drive over there, pick her up? It's only like 4 miles or something like that. Because of the curves, it takes like 10 minutes. Deb, when she said they did their part, what else would they have put that they paid? Deb, why did T and Nancy Guthrie, why did T take NG home by himself? Yeah, no doubt, Deb, no doubt. Annie also said A&T wanted money and Nancy said no. Well, we heard that out there in the ethosphere. We heard that they were needing money and Nancy was getting tired of it. Now, I don't know if that was ever validated, but we did hear that through the ethosphere, if you will. Annie also said A&T KB, when the movie airs, it will have to include the streamers. You would think. You would think. That would be nice. Annie 5811, he looks crazy. I wouldn't have went no place with him. Well said, well said. Melly, Deb, I agree. AJ, I have to run some errands. Been listening. See you guys in a bit. You got it, AJ. Thank you for being here. Melly, okay, Jay, drive safe. Whiskey Frequency says, because I don't think he ever left the house, especially with no camera showing the car. It's a good point, Whiskey. That's a good point. Very good point. Something happened at the house, Annie's house, that this night, so there was anger there. I mean, something had to happen to spark something, you know. And if something didn't happen, they have to be a reason for them to continue on this plan if that is what they did. I don't know what they did. I have no clue what they did. But I would say that if they did, something had to go array for them to go ahead and literally do this and continue to fulfill this whatever it is. You know what I mean? That's the problem. They don't have any solid. I think they have electronics. I think they have telemetrics. I think they have things that they're going to be able to point to the inconsistencies of what A&T are saying. They're going to have information that's going to contradict, and they're going to lose information because they gave the house back a day and a half later back to the family. I'm still stuck on she never made it home, and that front door was staged, in my opinion. It's very possible, Melly. Very, very possible. The fact of it is that we know it was her blood. We know that they went down and checked A&T's house on 5 different occasions. We know there was a blue light that was run, and that usually is for blood splatter. We know that they came out of there with some bags of evidence. We just don't know what. So there's a lot there. I mean, I see that. I do see that. Something happened at that house. Annie, Melly, me too. Annie. So the idea, literally, that we have learned so much more. I mean, you go look at how the breakdown of these notes, what that really means. You talk about the idea of who towed LD's car, or who was the one, who was the insurance company. Good morning, Gene. Dee. Good morning, mods and chat. Good to see you. There's just so much there, and trying to go back to the beginning. It's like, what is it that, what and why did they not share more information? There was a lot of information there that had nothing to do, that would have compromised the case. So that excuse is out the door. Jane, Melly, good morning. That's out the door. There's no way that literally that is going to hold. You know, do you think the women were drugged up or given alcohol so he could take her home by himself, and A wouldn't have a clue what T had done? He might not have wanted A there. It's possible. Absolutely possible. You know, it is very possible that, I mean, I don't know how anybody in the family could sit there and know what's coming and not bother them. Annie, hi, her blood eyes. She could have scraped the skin front because someone said she had bandage on her arm. Very possible. Very, very possible. With Nanos throwing out Daniel Maddox name last night, I am curious about that. Did he say who was Daniel Maddox, or what was his? I guess what was his claim to fame? Whiskey, if you can let me know. Very good questions, everybody. Very good live. Appreciate all of you for being here. Click that like and subscribe. If you are a subscriber, be a Devil Pup investigator, be a member of the channel. I believe stepbrother to Carlos. I can email it to you that very well. If you could do that, that'd be great. Thank you. Annie, Whiskey, I don't see that part. What else we got? What else we got? It's just crazy to see how many possibilities and how many rabbit holes one could take because of the lack of information that was presented. Makes no sense to me whatsoever. All right. Open chat, everybody. We now have open chat. If you got questions to ask your questions. Try to answer any questions you have. Open chat as of right now. So if you want to ask a question on any case we've covered or on this case, feel free to. We are now in open session. I am starting to rethink the info more deeply. Well said, Barney. Well said. Whiskey Daniel is also suing. Yes, he is. I heard that yesterday. Any Whiskey, I didn't see that part. Click that likes, everybody. Click that like. Get those algorithms going. Click the hearts. We got 40 people in. We should at least have 40 likes. Let's get it, everybody. So, just the information that we have, I think, is crucial. I think everything we've looked at, everything we've covered, everything we have gone over. I mean, it's all telling, folks. It's all telling. I cannot think of another person that could jump right in to this case and be the lead story. Be the person who everybody thinks has done something. Melly, my Barney, good morning. You know what I'm saying? I don't think there's anybody literally that could basically fulfill or answer all these things that are going on in this case. That's how much is going on, without a doubt. Click that like, everybody. Do me that favor. Smash the heart, smash the thumbs up. Let's get that algorithm going, everybody. Anything new on Nolan? So open chat now. Anything new on Nolan? Any comments? Any comments on Nolan? What is your take? What is your take on literally on Officer Tatum? Do you think he did a good job on the interviews? Who will take over this case if CN removed? Also, who will take his place? Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. I really, truly don't know. Aren't we still waiting on the path report for Nolan? Yeah, we are. We're waiting on several things. But now the family, we talked about how the family came out and they said that literally that I was watching this morning when they said that they were going to literally they put a stay so that no one can go ahead and erase any information, because now it looks like it's going to be a civil issue by the looks of it anyway. Yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Let's see if we can find anything on Nolan. Let's see. Let's see real quick. Let's see if we can find anything on Nolan. There was something I watched last night, but I couldn't tell if it was AI or not. Still looking, everybody. Give me a second. Trying to figure it out here. Let me search for it. Um, let's see here. It was something I watched last night. It was actually good, but I couldn't tell if it was AI or not. It was a really good. It was a good one too. Yeah, I can't see it, everybody. Aren't we still waiting for a path of the reporter, Melly? KB, wonder when we will know whether Nanos is indicted or not. Hopefully, we'd find out pretty soon, KB. Barney, in my opinion, Tatum failed and at meaningful interviews, other than we know, have an idea of who will stick with their story and core. Very well said. Whiskey Frequency, send you an email. Thank you so much, Whiskey. Appreciate that. We'll look at that. I think it's Nolan's family, social media, subpoenaed, distress boss. Still trying to find it, guys. Hang on. All right, hang on. Hang on. Let's see what this says here. So go to StreamYard, go to share screen. All right, let's see what this says. All right, here we go, everybody. Tell me what you think.
Degrees by 46.79. Yes, there's lots of people breathing on the boat. Like 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
So the first thing that comes out to me, Phil, is the fact that not only was this longer, but one of the other things that this gentleman said, this expert said, was that the digital fingerprint was different and the content of the clips was different. And now we know with AI, it's so easy to doctor these types of calls and these types of, what they call evidence. Yeah. So I think that's really easy to happen. The other thing that really sticks out to me, Phil, is the fact that this kid is calling the CETO company. He's calling for help. He's calling for someone to come. It kind of defies logic if you think that they're out there doing something sinister, trying to hide this murder that they perpetrated. Yeah. And then they're calling and saying, come and help us. Doesn't make sense. Why are they going to bring people to them if that's happening? And if it was an accident and Nolan was there, they would be saying that. They would be saying, send the EMS.
Well, people are saying that they hear in this audio, which, as you mentioned, it's 20 seconds longer than.
Yeah, that's not the one. God, I'm still trying to find it, folks. Cannot believe I cannot find it. Let's see what this is on. I haven't seen this one.
So the woman that Nolan was talking to, her name was Katie, and her sister Gracie came out and said that Nolan, he actually intended to go back to the mainland with his group.
And didn't she say they hadn't spent a lot of time together while they were there? He didn't stay back specifically to spend a lot of time with her, or they didn't spend a lot of time together, Katie and Nolan. And so that kind of defeats the whole explanation that he insisted. We just kept, get on the boat, get on the boat. Come on, Nolan, you got to get on the boat. You got to get on the boat. And he doesn't, and that, as it turns out, there's no sense of desperation for him to stay off the boat because he has nothing really cooking, if you will, at the moment to be so insistent at being left behind without a ride back.
Yeah, the stories are conflicting. You got Nolan friends saying that he wanted to stay at the island, but you got Katie's sister Gracie saying that Nolan, he intended to go back with his group. So
yeah, a lot of moving parts, and I'm waiting to see about this grand jury and see what they say, because it's based on how the prosecutor presents that case to the grand jury. Grand jury hearings are one way. You don't have those who testify at the grand jury do not have the ability to have legal counsel.
Issues before the incident even happened.
They are questioned by the prosecutor in front of the grand jury with the questions and the objectives that the prosecutor is trying to achieve. No defense attorney can say objection, or they can say, let me tell you an alternative scenario or narrative. That doesn't occur. So I don't like grand jury in and of itself. I think grand juries should be abolished. But in the case of, in this case, we have to trust that the prosecutor wants to be fair and not protecting, as has been the case in the history of Mississippi over the decades. Protect those who have been accused of racial hostility and racial killings. And so that's what we hope we're not seeing, a cover up. That's the best way to put it. And so we'll see what's presented in front of the grand jury and how they respond. And on that note, when we talk about this, you know, everybody tells us to vote for this president, that president, this U.S. senator, As street guys, and I say as because I still identify right where I came from. I'm everything other than a criminal. I'm still the same other than a criminal. But my point is, we complain about voting. Yeah, the hell with a president, a U.S. Senate. You know who street guys need to be concerned with? Prosecutors and judges. That's why you vote. So you can you learn who's running for prosecutor and you look at their record. You learn who's running for police chief.
I agree.
Or
KB.
Other law enforcement positions that are based on elections, the judge, and determine whether you're going to vote for that person or not. But you got to get out and vote or stop complaining. You see how they railroading us? They send us to jail on trumped up charges, don't get due process, plant stuff on us, shoot us, and lie about it like they just did the young man Reese in Madison, Wisconsin. We got to vote for prosecutors. In fact, what we did after the killing of Mike Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, we had an election that I was there, I say we because I was part of that movement, and we...
What did we just hear? What was that?
This is the most up-to-date Nolan Wells piece of information that just doesn't line up. You've heard a lot so far, but this one is really taking the cake for me. By now, everyone has heard the recording of the Sea Tow, which is like a towing company for boats, that Nolan Wells' friends made. You heard the dispatch. You heard everything. Here's the one that doesn't make sense. Now we're being told, again, we got to be able to confirm it 100%. Right now we're at like 90% confirmation of it, that one of the friends, the grandfather called, or the father called, spoke with somebody and said, oh, they no longer need emergency assistance. The reason why that doesn't really add up or make sense to me is because the kid that's on the phone with CETO dispatch sounds like, hey, you guys need to get here. Like, we're taking on water. We're going to sink. You guys need to get here. What transpired from the moment that the person allegedly called and said, hey, we're all set, they're good, they don't need emergency services, to him being frantic on the phone? Did that really happen? If it did, why was none of the friends aware of it, and why wasn't it stated at one point on that recorded line?
Kelly, I heard he stated
He is talking about the boat taking on water. We are sinking. Come and get us. I want this boat unsank and towed back. But we learned that very boat took multiple trips later that very same night.
At 9:56 a.m., the boat leaves the original dock. It arrives at Horn Island at 11:14. So at around 4 o'clock, there is a call to the Coast Guard about the boat. NBC News got a hold of it.
We're sinking. Can you all please come?
And is everybody on board in good health otherwise?
Yeah, everybody's on board.
At 4:31, the boat leaves Horn Island and it is towed approximately 3 miles, and then the tow ends. So after 3 miles, they go back to the original dock. They arrive at 5:44 p.m. So it looks like this is where Horn Island is, and this is where the original dock is that I am referring to. El Camino Real Road is in Gulf Hills, Mississippi, which is right above Ocean Springs. So I'm wondering if this is the house where they got the phone. Now, the boat travels to Fort Bayou. At 6:06, the boat returns to the original dock. Then, from the original dock, the boat goes back to Fort Bayou, and then they go to the boat launch, and it is put onto the trailer and moved by the vehicle. Did they drop people off at the original dock, travel to Fort Bayou, pick somebody up, and go back to that original dock? From there, why was there an hour and 13-minute time gap? This boat was sinking hours before, and then they're just having it docked for an hour and 13 minutes. You would think they'd want to get that boat out of the water.
What did we just hear? What was that?
This is why they were trying to protect Bart in the first place. Remember, he's the 21-year-old. So he was the one that was going to be held responsible for the alcohol and all of that. And listen, his father is in the medical field, and they're saying allegedly that they were getting the substances, certain substances, from the father. Also, we got a video of Nolan Wells allegedly breaking up a fight. That just shows his character and when it comes down to people in an altercation. That's Nolan. That's Nolan. Got that stance on him.
This is Bart Edmiston Jr., a 21-year-old adult from Ocean Springs, Mississippi. He was an all-star kicker and punter for Ocean Springs. Bart is currently signed to Southern Miss. Football also runs within the family because his father, Dr. Bart Edmiston, pain management physician, who used to be a football player at the University of Florida. Dr. Bart Edmiston also works for Memorial Health System. And so does NP, Miss Christine Wells Wansley. Small world. He's right there.
All they really want is justice. And justice is the pursuit of truth. And it just seems to be triggering people in such an odd way that I, quite frankly, don't understand.
Guys, I want to circle back not only to the beginning of that MR, Mississippi Department Marine Research call. I want you to hear more, a different segment of that SEATOW, that's SEATOW call. Listen.
Right, looks like you're on Horn Island, correct? Are you
Yes,
on
we are
Horn
at
Island?
Yes.
All right, is the boat sinking or you have it aground?
We were sinking, yes.
Is it aground is the question?
Oh, we're not aground. We are in 17 foot of water. We're in 31 foot of water.
All right, have to ask. What do you want to do? Do you want to be towed back?
I want to get this boat unsank and towed back, yes.
All right, where would you like it towed to, sir?
You can tow it to Ocean Springs Harbor or Fort Bayou Launch.
You know, it just struck me. He's got reception. Why is everybody saying you can't make calls and you can't take pictures because there's no reception? He's out in the middle of the water at those coordinates and he's got reception. Remember that? Remember that, Alexis Tereszczuk, Crime Stories investigative reporter? We were told at the beginning that items were not deleted off Nolan Wills's phone, but he wasn't posting because there wasn't reception. But they're out in the middle of the water and they've got reception.
They do. He has really good reception and you can hear it clearly throughout this call. But the stories maybe have changed a few times. First, it was he didn't have any reception. The other was, nobody took their phones on the island because, you had to wade through some water to get to it. And they even said, well, this is salt water, not fresh water, as if that matters to your phone when you drop it into it. But there are videos from the island. Even some of his friends are in videos from the island. So people clearly had their phone. And the other friend was arguing when you were talking about the videos that people worry about that have said that it was him. His friend was seen in the video screaming, give me back my phone. The phones were there. Other kids had their phones.
Okay. But before I discount claims that Nolan did not have reception, I don't know what carrier he had. Maybe he didn't have reception. My point is, why everybody's screaming to shut this investigation down, I don't know, because these are very rudimentary facts that we don't have the answers to. He is talking about the boat taking on water. We are sinking. Come and get us. I want this boat unsank and towed back. But interesting, we learned that very boat took multiple trips later that very same night.
So first, at 9:56 a.m., the boat leaves the original dock. It arrives at Horn Island at 11:14. So at around 4 o'clock, there is a call to the Coast Guard about the boat. NBC News got a hold of it.
We're sinking. Can you all please come?
And is everybody on board in good health otherwise?
Yeah, everybody's on board.
Everybody's on board. So does that mean Nolan is on there? Who was on that boat? At 4:31, the boat leaves Horn Island and it is towed approximately 3 miles, and then the tow ends. So after 3 miles, they go back to the original dock, okay? They arrive at 5:44 p.m. So it looks like this is where Horn Island is, and this is where the original dock is that I am referring to. I looked it up, and El Camino Real Road is in Gulf Hills, Mississippi, which is right above Ocean Springs. So I'm wondering if this is the house where they got the phone. Now, the boat travels to Fort Bayou. At 6:06, the boat returns to the original dock. Then, from the original dock, the boat goes back to Fort Bayou, and then they go to the boat launch, and it is put onto the trailer and moved by the vehicle. Did they drop people off at the original dock, travel to Fort Bayou, pick somebody up, and go back to that original dock? And then from there, why was there an hour and 13-minute time gap? This boat was sinking hours before, and then they're just having it docked for an hour and 13 minutes. You would think they'd want to get that boat out of the water ASAP.
That's from the Real TikTok Detective and from NBC. So it doesn't sound to me, Dave Mack, that the boat was sinking, because they're going all over in the boat. So if the boat's not sinking, why the SEATOW call? Why the distress call?
Yes, Nancy, the one thing you have to remember on that first CETO call, you hear them saying, we're in 30 feet of water, we're sinking, we need to be unsank and towed. But if you follow along with that communication, the CETO company reaches out to a local captain nearby and says, hey, we've got a boat. Can you go take a look? And the captain nearest to the boat says, hey, I just got a call from the owner of that boat. He says they've resolved the problem and don't need us anymore. So, and this happened during the course of 10 minutes, Nancy.
Hey, everybody. So I've got to break away. I do have to break away. We will continue this conversation literally at 5. Tucson, good morning. I am listening mode. Hope everyone is feeling better than okay today. Feeling great, Tucson. Feeling great. Marianne, I went to bed around 4 a.m. Fell asleep with phones and Nikki's stream and my tablet and Alex's stream. Marianne, hi, 857. You got it. Peace, 857. We'll see you guys at 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock p.m. Correction. Yes, 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. I'll see you all there. Thank you so much. Appreciate all you mods. And thank you for stopping by, 857. Appreciate you. Thank you. With that, everybody, like I always say, it's all common sense, everybody. Everything's common sense. God bless you all and Semper Fi.